President Donald Trump made about the security situation in Nigeria, and where do things go from here?
So first is that 8-letter word, evidence. If you look at that tweet, you clearly see that the United States Department, the Director of National Intelligence also jumped on that message from the United States President. So what we clearly see is that they are talking about evidence, especially evidence from the United States Commission on International Freedom and Rights. So they say they have evidence that this is going on. However, the point is, like you said, how did we get here? And we got here because of three reasons. First is our perception of value, with reference to the United States, and our perception of value in the eyes of the United States is significantly weaker. And that brings us to the second point, which is because our perception of value is weaker, we come to the negotiating table with very little to negotiate with. And the third, and perhaps what is clear now, is the United States and Nigeria are not allies. You do not threaten an ally like the way United States President has done. So what is clear is our perception of value is weaker. At the negotiating table, we are weaker. And the United States and Nigeria, we can have so many things in common, but this message is coming from the United States President makes it clear that we are not allies. Now, the point is, should we be surprised that all of this is happening? The answer is no. Going by history, if we had been following and consistently what the United States Commission on International Freedom had been putting out, they had always wanted Nigeria to be put on that list of countries where they are concerned about. And if you take a look at how this has all started, even from when President Tinubu came in, we look at the history of their comments, we clearly see that the United States Commission for International Freedom, International Religious Freedom, always wanted. In 2023, they had released a report on ethno-nationalism and religious freedom, asking the United States Department of Security to put Nigeria on that list. 2024 as well, they had called for a congressional hearing asking the State Department not to fail to designate Nigeria and India as countries of particular concern. Same in 2024, they felt that the State Department, the United States Department, was not doing that they had requested it to do, to put Nigeria on the state of countries of concern. And this year, their annual report as well on religious freedom, they had asked the United States Department of State to again put Nigeria on the list of countries of particular concern. So let's also be very clear, Anne. This is not the first time Nigeria is coming on the list of countries of particular concern. In 2020, Donald Trump put Nigeria on that list, countries of particular concern. 2021, Biden took us out of that list. Now 2025, we are back on the list. Again, if you look at the two times we came on that list, it was Donald Trump that was leading the calls for that. So it's really not a surprise.
So now that Nigeria has been put on that list of countries of particular concern, what is the implication for Nigeria as a country and, of course, for its citizens?
So there's a lot of politics going on. If you take a look at the 13 countries, now it was 12 before with Nigeria, 13 countries on the list of countries of particular concern, you can clearly see there are some interesting things. First is 9 out of these 13 countries are in the Asian region. 2 of these countries are in Northern America, 2 of these countries, Africa, Nigeria and Eritrea. But don't forget, Eritrea's population is less than 5 million. So when we're talking about countries of particular concern in Africa, really, Nigeria is really the major country from Africa on that list. But what a lot of people are concerned about and why they feel that this list of countries of concern perhaps might also be really political is that none of the 32 countries that are in NATO are on this list. You know that North African Treaty Organization that really are the United States allies. So none of the allies, none of the NATO member countries, 32 of them, not one is on this list of countries of concern. So the question is, how realistic and how accurate is this country of list? So is this country of list of countries of particular concern, is it more political or is it factual? And based on some of these concerns that no NATO member country is on this list, it seems that this list is really political than factual.
All right. So President Donald Trump made a comment which is more of a threat, maybe some remarks about considering U.S. military action. Is this a realistic thing? Is it even possible for the U.S. government to come into Nigeria in that forum?
Just before we look at that, we're talking about some of the implications of this. One other considerable implication as well is if you look at the investment trend, number of investments that are coming into Nigeria relative to, especially from the United States, we see a declining trend from the United States. And if you take a look at that picture, it allows us to clearly understand that the United States really is less interested in investing in Nigeria. Look at that period, 2015 to 2019. You can clearly see on an average, 20% of all capital that was coming into Nigeria came from the United States. 2015, as high as 25% of all capital coming into Nigeria came from the United States. As of 2020, still 20%. Look at what has happened in the last 4 years. 2020 to 2024, we can clearly see the difference in investment coming into Nigeria from the United States. So we clearly see that the posture of the United States in terms of investment is anti-Nigeria. Now, to the question on what exactly is the possibility, the truth is anything is possible, especially because the Director of National Intelligence in the United States, Tulsi Gabbard, the Secretary of State for War, Pete Hegseth, is also been commenting on this. The Vice President has been commenting on this from the United States. However, looking at the patterns and the trends from the tweets from Donald Trump, is it likely to happen? The evidence shows that it is not likely to happen. What has really happened is from the United States President's communication, it has generated a lot of views. And so looking at the White House, the statement from the White House, when that post was made till today, over 10 million persons have viewed that statement from the White House. The Nigerian president has put out a message. However, that message has gotten less than 5 million views. So what we see is because the views from the United States, their messages are really going more viral than ours, then it's creating a lot of fear. But above all, I think what President Tinubu has said is very clear. And if you take a look at his statement that he had made on what was going on, we clearly see that his position and the position of the government is religious freedom and tolerance have been a core tenet of our collective identity and shall always remain so. I think that is right. The new service chiefs have jumped into the fire as well. Less than 48 hours since they've gotten into office, the Chief of Defense Staff, General Oluyede, has also made a comment on behalf of all service chiefs on their position, subtle though. And if you take a look at his own position as well, it is clear, especially saying that Nigeria is not at war with Christians and we will never be. This is not a war of religion. This is a war for peace, so that Christians and Muslims can live, worship, and prosper together in one Nigeria. So, Anne, what we now need to do going forward is the President of the United States comments are based on what they classify as their evidence. What we now need to do and what the government needs to do and all the military chiefs and all institutions have to do is we now need to be more evidence-driven. So they provided their evidence. We should now provide our evidence that none of this is happening. One of the things the United States Commission has really pointed out to is the blasphemy laws, especially across 12 states. They are worried about that. Second thing they are worried about is killings across religious institutions. And the third thing they worry about is that the profile of who they say these terrorists are, they feel most of these terrorists belong to one religious faith. So we need to look at those three things: the blasphemy laws, especially in those 12 states, killings and attacks at religious centers, especially churches, and the profile of these terrorists that they believe is from one faith. Again, that 8-letter word, we need to provide evidence to show that all of these are some person's opinions and they are not facts. And
all right.